IVM.
Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories, India's very own travel podcast, where each week we share the journey of travelers in their own words and relive their experiences with you, our listeners.
Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Musafir Stories. On the podcast today, we chat with Sahana Kulur, a multi-talented personality with a penchant for travel. We discuss a lesser-known gem from Karnataka as Sahana takes us to the erstwhile Adil Shahi capital of Bijapur. Let's hop onto the episode and find out more. So with that introduction, we'd love to welcome Sahana Kulur, a traveler, architect, educator, and blogger at vekwork.com. Hi, Sahana. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's really a pleasure to have you, and especially somebody with such a varied background. The intro I gave about you is really short and concise. So why don't you speak a little bit more about you, Sahana, and different roles that you play?
Hi, I'm an architect, like you said. By profession, I'm an architect. As a student, I never enjoyed history of architecture much,
Uh-huh.
but as I grew, I understood building speaks to me. So it's a very odd sentence. Many people may find it weird when I say building speaks to me, but I started realizing buildings speak to me. There's histories and stories. So that's how I was drawn towards history of architecture, and then from the profession I broke out a little bit, not completely. I'm still a practicing architect.
Mhm.
Then I started teaching at an architectural college. I teach many subjects, and history of architecture is my specialty. So most of my travel revolves around historical places all around the world and India especially.
Okay, wonderful. Really looking forward to that, and especially with your background, I'm sure we'll get some very interesting insights into the place we visit. So, just as a tradition, what we usually do at the Musafir Stories is whenever we have a guest, we request them to take us to a place and explain their experience exploring that place, the culture, the architecture, right? That's also one aspect of it. So, with that in mind, where are you taking us to today?
Today I'm taking you to one of the most underrated place in India. It's located in Karnataka. It's called Bijapur, or you can call it Vijayapura. So there are two names for that. So it's located in the northern tip of Karnataka, and it shares border with Maharashtra. And probably one of the few places where the place is filled with stories. Like you can make a movie out of it, and I'm sure the movie is going to be 100 days, 100 crore movie hit. So it's full of Bollywood style of drama,
Okay.
but they're not stories, but they are the realistic stories.
Very interesting. And yeah, like you rightly pointed out right at the beginning, a very underrated place, right? Forget about in India, even in Karnataka, I would say not a lot of people would know much about Bijapur. Obviously, there is a few places that are iconic and are synonymous with Bijapur, but there's obviously so much more in terms of history and stories and architecture that usually we tend to miss out on. And even my trip to Bijapur probably goes back, I don't know, close to 30 years now when I was in school, and a lot of it I've already forgotten. So I'm really excited and looking forward to hearing more of this from you and connecting back to my school trip that I'd done to Bijapur. But just to give a little bit of a context to our listeners as well, like you mentioned, this is in the northern part of Karnataka. Shares a border with Maharashtra and not too far away from Bombay, Mumbai either, right? Probably equidistant from Mumbai and Bangalore for that matter. So that it's very accessible. But if one has to get here, how would you suggest getting here? Like, what's the preferred mode of transport?
Another shocking truth is it's closer to Goa,
Ah,
Panjim, than Karnataka's capital, Bangalore.
yeah.
And irony is that people who go to Goa tend to ignore this. Goa is one of the most famous places in India, and I don't think anybody else in the world would say, "What is Goa?" I have not heard of it.
Yeah.
But when I say Bijapur or Vijayapura, people may get confused where it is. So it is just 300 kilometers from Goa. So to get there, the proposition is there of the airport, which is going to be opened in 2023 on the papers, but I'm not sure if it will be opened by 2023. But with the time, Indian Railways have developed a lot better. So Bijapur sits in one of the main railway lines that connects Ahmedabad to the southern part of India, Goa to other parts of India. So getting there by train is the easiest, I would say. So it's 300 odd kilometers from Goa, and Telangana's capital Hyderabad is 380 kilometers, and from Bangalore it's 530 kilometers. So all these three places have international airports. So if you get into any one of those, you can catch a train and come here. But the best thing is to land in Goa, have a nice beach vacation for a week or so, and then come here.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, it's very, very accessible that way, and does have a lot of other places of importance close by too. So you could choose to either do it as a standalone vacation or mix it up with other places like Goa or Mumbai or Bangalore, like Sahana mentioned. And also, Sahana, just in terms of when would be an ideal time to visit Bijapur and plan an itinerary in Bijapur, what would you recommend given the climatic conditions of the place?
Before I tell, I just forgot to mention one thing. There are two Bijapurs in India, which
Okay.
I was also unaware of until I went to book my train ticket from Bangalore to Bijapur.
Okay.
So there is one Bijapur in Chhattisgarh and there is one Bijapur in Karnataka. So when you go to IRCTC website, make sure you are choosing the one that says Bijapur Karnataka or Vijayapura Karnataka. So the name will get back to the history why it is Bijapura and Vijayapura, but make sure that you're booking the ticket to the right Bijapur, which is in Karnataka. So Bijapur is located in a hot, dry climate. So when I say hot, it is as hot as 45 degrees centigrade during summer. I would avoid at any cost going there April and May, saying that I went there twice or thrice and none of them was in April, and it was terribly hot, like probably 4 hours of roaming, and we used to come back to the AC room and like cool down till the evening. So I
Yeah.
would suggest September to March beginning should be the ideal time where the temperatures go maximum up to 30 degrees centigrade. I know 30 degrees centigrade itself is hot,
Yeah.
but trust me, I have seen Bijapura people wearing sweaters when it is 25 degrees centigrade.
Oh my God.
I had a colleague who was from Bijapur. So when Bangalore reaches 20 degree, she used to be like, "What is this? Bangalore is becoming Himalaya or what?" Then she is saying, in Bijapur, sometimes we wear sweaters at the temperature of 25 degrees centigrade. So September to March beginning should be the ideal time for visitors to go to Bijapur.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, it absolutely does tend to get really hot and dry. So definitely plan your travel more around the post-monsoon slash winter seasons. Just moving on quickly from here, I know Bijapur has usually been synonymous with a few monuments, and we'll definitely touch upon them. But even in terms of the history and the stories, this has like a really, really rich concoction right from the people who used to rule the place. We've seen rulers going back to the Chalukyas in the 10th, 11th century, to the Rashtrakutas, Yadavas, and then some of the Muslim kingdoms that were set up here, right? So it has a very, very rich historical context as well that will add to these monuments as we explore them. Do you want to share some overview of the things that you learned maybe before your travels and even while you were traveling in Bijapur about the place, about its rich history and the stories?
100%. I try to learn before going for two reasons. One, when you go to a place which you have heard of, or you know some interesting stories, the memories become like core memories, I would say. Like you connect with the place better. So anywhere I go, I read about the place better. And Bijapur's most famous Gol Gumbaz is part of history of architecture syllabus where I teach. So you know how students are. I have to keep them alive for 45 minutes of the class. So I really have to tell them stories apart from the architectural
Yeah.
details. So fortunately, Bijapur's story is, like I said, it is very, very engrossing. So let me start with when it started with the initial part is not so like happening. It's like any other state which was established in 10th century by the Chalukyas, and they called it Vijayapura. That means city of victory. Vijaya means victory. City means Nagara, as you know. So it's called as city of victory. Then came the Yadavas who took over the city from Chalukyas, and then the Bahamani Sultanates of Gulbarga or Kalburgi. Again, there are two names for the same place. So it is located around 150 kilometers from Bijapur. So they took over the city Bijapur. So Vijayapura became Bijapur because of Bahamanis. Everything was happening fine. Bahamani was like the Deccan Sultans, the triangular part of India. What you see at the bottom of our map, which is called as Deccan, the southern India, it was under the control of Bahamanis. So the story gets interesting now. There are two things about the Bijapur Sultans, the two stories. The historians have not confirmed which one is true, but both are interesting. So, somewhere when in Turkey, Ottomans were ruling and they were constantly fighting with Romans. So both the empires were fighting for each other's glory. What happened? One of the Ottoman kings had two sons, and only one of them could be coronated. So he could foresee the future where when his first son gets coronated, gets the throne, the second one might start the fight for the throne. So what he does is he asks his servants to kill his second son, thinking that it is good for his empire, so that the two brothers won't fight. But obviously, the queen feels sorry for the second son. She goes to the market or the bazaars of Turkey. Then she finds a Persian merchant whose name is Mohammed Gawan. He's a very famous merchant who has a high influence in Deccan plateau of India.
Yeah.
You must have heard of him for establishing the madrasas, schools. He has a lot of prominence in Karnataka's history. So she sells her son to Muhammad Gawan, and she gives him a lot of money and says, "Take my son, go back, don't stay in Turkey, look after my son. I don't want anything else." So Muhammad Gawan takes the kid, goes back to Iran. So the guy who was born in Turkey was taken to Iran. So he studies Persian language, he studies science, and the guy is like the son of Muhammad Gawan now. What happens? He comes to Goa. His eyes are on Mughal kings now when he comes to India. So he lands in Goa. Then he hears about Bahamani kingdom, and then he sells this small boy to Bahamani kingdom as a slave. So this slave, the guy who has joined Bahamani Sultanates, works in the horse stable. But he has learned a lot of Persian literature, he knows science, he knows maths. So Bahamani kings were like, "Oh, quite an impressive guy to work in a stable. Let us make him the governor. Let us give him a part of our kingdom to look after. Not like a king, but like, hey, go take care of this region." So they gave Bijapur to the guy who was working in the stable. And then Bahamani kingdom starts to weaken by Vijayanagara empire, which is Vijayanagara is associated with Hampi, which is world known to many tourists. So the fight between Vijayanagara and Bahamani increases. Bahamani kingdom breaks into 5 pieces. And the clever guy who worked in the stable, who was looking after Bijapur, now takes a quick move and says, "I am the Sultan of Bijapur. I'm no longer under anybody who is under Bahamani. So I am going to call my kingdom Adil Shahi dynasty or Adil Shahi of Bijapur." And his name is Yusuf Adil Shah. So from Turkey, he went to Iran, he got sold to a king in Goa, and then he claims his own kingdom in Bijapur. So this is the history, what historians say. And there is another side of the story where people say he was not the son of Turkish king, but he was a Georgian slave. Like, I'm like, wow, where is Georgia? Where is Turkey? And yeah, Georgia and Turkey a little closer. But imagine a Georgian coming to southern India. So the total story of how Bijapur gets established itself is really crazy. So the kingdom gets established, and of course, like, I have been to Iran, and the some sense of poetry or their admiration towards literature, poetry, it's immense. So this guy becomes like the epitome of the one who admires poetry and literature in India. So he gets people from Africa, he gets people from Rome, he gets people from Greece, of course, from Persia, and he often engages with them with some architectural monuments, literature, gardens. Gardens are tough to make in Bijapur because there is a city of water, but still he tries to make something for the city. And during Adil Shahi's reign, the city of Bijapur grew its to glory until Aurangzeb, the Mughal emperor,
Yeah.
took it over. So he constantly invades Bijapur dynasty for around, I think, 15 months. Like, it's like a long, long war. And then in some 1690s or something, Aurangzeb takes over Bijapur and the Adil Shahi dynasty closes. So this is the history of
Yeah.
Bijapur.
Yeah, very, very colorful, like you rightly said. And in terms of what would be a good amount of time to see and experience Bijapur, like how long was your itinerary for?
Actually, what people usually do is they combine Bijapur with Badami Aihole Patadkal. So it's another temple trail which belongs to Chalukya. So usually people go to Bijapur in the morning, see around 3-4 places till the next day, and next day morning they leave to Badami. But I stayed in Bijapur for 2 whole days. If you just want to see Gol Gumbaz, then yeah, just go spend an hour there, come back, it's fine. But if you want to really understand Bijapur and how the history has shaped the city, you'll need 2 days, is what I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ideally, a full weekend type of an itinerary would suffice, but easily can turn into a 3-4 day itinerary, right? If you want to take it really slow and stay there for some time, you could easily do a longer itinerary as well. And also, what really blows my mind is, like you mentioned, Badami and some of the other places like Patadakal, Aihole, they're not too far away from there. And literally from an architecture perspective, they're like two ends of the spectrum, right? So different from different periods. Obviously, that was from the Chalukyan period, but still, I'm so glad that not too far away from each other, you can experience both ends of the spectrum, even purely from an architectural standpoint. So, yeah, really, really looking forward to exploring more of Bijapur with you, and a couple of quick call-outs as well in terms of, I think, just trivia and interesting connections. Mohammed Gavan that you mentioned earlier on, who took on the young Adil Shahi prince from Turkey. And he's been very influential, and especially in Karnataka, right, as a merchant and later on as a chieftain for the Bahamani kingdom. And you actually see some of the structures, right? Like you mentioned, the madrasa, especially in Bidar, I believe, right? Is where the madrasa and all of that is. Faiza, right? My wife, she's actually from Bidar, so there's that little bit of connection to, yeah, Muhammad Gavan as well, and his place. And secondly, the Adil Shahi kingdom, or the Adil Shahi Sultanate that we spoke of, Shahji Bhosle, right? Chhatrapati Shivaji's father. He was a chieftain in the Adil Shahi kingdom. So he actually fought for Bijapur, and back in the day he had Bangalore and Pune and a few other places as his Jagir, right? So very interesting connections of history, and sometimes you do feel that it is a small world after all, right? There's like overlapping from different periods and different people, like in this case from the Maratha Empire, like Chhatrapati Shivaji, who would go on to form the Maratha Empire. So just wanted to call that out as well real quick. But yeah, let's hop onto your itinerary and find out what you did during your time. Tell us how your itinerary was and where you started off.
Because you mentioned Bidar, I just want to mention one thing. The madrasa built by Mohammed Gavan, if it was maintained, restored, conserved well, it would have exactly looked like something in Samarkand
Yeah.
or Bukhara. The turquoise glaze tiles, the mosaics, the turquoise dome, everything, the arched ways. Every time I saw the sad state of how be the madrasa is maintained, it breaks my heart. And every time, this is another Uzbekistan part
Yeah,
of Uzbekistan could have been here, but yeah, unfortunately, that is ill maintained.
yeah. I think that's the curse of having too many monuments, right? We tend to like not care about them. It is definitely sad that something that could have been preserved is no longer in the state that it was. And yeah, quickly moving on to Bijapur and some of the iconic monuments in Bijapur that you saw. Where would you want to start off with?
If you have come on the previous night, like you had a good night's sleep after your train journey, I would say get up early. It's okay if you lose a sleep of, let's say, getting up at 6 a.m. I'm talking about, so it's not too early also. Head to Gol Gumbaz. It's one of the places where I have seen the most dreamiest sunrise ever. So it's like we walked from the hotel room. So the streets were still empty. There were no tangawalas, no auto rickshawalas. So we could walk faster. And when you enter Gol Gumbaz campus, you'll see one building which is built with black stones, precisely basalt. So you see that, and you see one big gigantic dome sitting on top of it, and you will assume that okay, the dome is sitting on the first building what you are seeing, but the interesting part starts there. It is not sitting on the first building you see. In fact, Gol Gumbaz sits on a mausoleum which is behind that museum what you see, but it's an optical illusion where you see okay, so I see the first building and the dome sits there. No, so the moment you walk towards the museum, you'll realize the dome is going behind. So it's a very weird optical illusion, I would say. And to add to the charm, Gol Gumbaz campus is maintained very well. And then make sure you head there before the sunrise. You can visit the museum later, but I would suggest you head to the main building first. So you'll see four turrets all around the square building of Gol Gumbaz. So one of them is open, so it's around 7-story height, approximately 33-meter or something. So you have to go inside one of the turrets, and it's a spiral staircase that takes you to the terrace. The beauty of Gol Gumbaz lies in the terrace. So once you go there, you'll see the sprawling Bijapur city, and there are pedestals, there are parapet wall with carvings, and then there are so many smaller domes beside, and you can touch the main Bijapur Gol Gumbaz dome when you stand in the terrace. And there are so many parakeets who have made Gol Gumbaz as their home. So they are in their highest activated mode early in the morning. So sit there, watch the sunrise. Trust me, you will not regret it. It's like one big giant orange rises out of nowhere, and the way the color of Gol Gumbaz changes, it's really amazing. And it's one of the most peaceful time inside in Gol Gumbaz, because the moment it hits 10 o'clock, the tourist starts coming. In a way, tourists make that place lively, but you need some quieter time for yourself also. Once you're done, then you start seeing the building. So once you see the sunrise, it feels like you're not in India. You don't know where you are. It's the place gives you that kind of a feel. So once you're there, then you go to the whispering gallery from the terrace. The access to the whispering gallery is from the terrace. That's where the magic happens. So the Bijapur Gol Gumbaz dome, it's actually the second largest non-reinforced dome. The entire dome is built with masonry and plaster mortar. So there is no reinforcement used. So the first largest is St. Peter's in Rome, in Vatican City. The second largest is our India's Gol Gumbaz dome.
Oh, wow.
The magic of this place is it's called as a whispering gallery. For example, if you say hi, you can it echoes for 7 times. You need not even raise your voice. If you even just clap really slowly or just snap your fingers, you can hear it for the 7 times. So you have to do this before tourist comes, because the moment tourists come, they love this spot. So most of the time you will hear boys saying, I love you, Chinnu, I miss you, why did you leave me? And they sing some sad songs. All these things keep happening. It's fun to watch, but yeah, you should experience how it works. So once you have done that, then you can come down slowly. Yeah, it's little tiresome. I won't say people with knee problems can climb that. It is tough, and there's no other way to go up and down. So then you come down, then you see the building. Like then you'll realize that it's one of the unique building you will see, because there is a part of the building which is built in wood. They wanted to make it colorful with the colored glasses and things, but that part is not done. And up there is part of stucco work which artisans have started, but it was never complete, but still the building looks complete. So it's there is some kind of sense. I always say it's something like when you see Brad Pitt's face, you feel so happy, no? Or when you say or Ranveer Singh's face, if I see, I feel very happy. So Bijapur Gol Gumbaz has such a face where you feel there's something soothing about it. So take a walk around, and there are many. The smaller building in the complex which was used as Dharamshala, which is like tourist lodge and things like that. So in the ground floor, actually, it's just one chamber. It looks gigantic. It's around 50-meter tall building, but it's just one chamber inside where there are cenotaphs of the king who built it. And actual grave is buried in the basement. So what you see in the ground floor is just the cenotaph. So that's about the glorious Gol Gumbaz.
I know it's absolutely beautiful to the eye, and obviously, given the time you're visiting, right, early morning during sunrise, it amplifies the whole experience like a few times over. And beyond that, even like for somebody like you with a background in architecture, I'm sure looking at this was really like. The one of the best experiences, right? So I'm glad that you had that, and I'm sure like this is like I was referring to from the beginning, right? Bijapur is usually synonymous with the Gol Gumbaz, right? This is the place that people usually relate to. But beyond this as well, there's a lot of other monuments, obviously smaller and a little more offbeat, but I'm sure you had a chance to visit those as well as a part of your itinerary. Where did you move on after spending time at the Gol Gumbaz and the West Spring Gallery and the overall complex?
We had breakfast in a nearby hotel and we moved on to Jama Masjid. The word
Okay.
Jama means congregational, so it's a congregational mosque. I won't say it's architecturally amazing or something, but again, the stories are interesting. People whom you meet there are very, very kind, and they want to tell their stories on how Aurangzeb came here and he wanted to change the entrance of the mosque itself. So, some part of the mosque is like there are turrets coming up and suddenly it has stopped, and some part of the archways are decorated with stucco, but the next one is empty. It feels very unique and weird. Like, why didn't they complete this mosque? So it's a nice place, and if you're tired after walking so much up and down, you can easily chill in Jama Masjid. It's clean, it's neat, it's vast, and not too many people come there. Then I would say you can move on to something called as Bara Kaman. So
Okay.
again, Bara means 12, so Kaman means arches. The person who built Gol Gumbaz, Mohammed Adil Shah, it's his his grave lies there in Gol Gumbaz. When his son wanted to build Bara Kaman as like an intended competitor for his dad's building, it's like, oh, my father did this. I'm gonna do something bigger than that. Yeah, ambition is great, but you need to have the right technology also, right? So in
Right.
1672, like, what bigger could you do better than Gol Gumbaz? The guy didn't have much thought on this, so he started something with 20 feet high pedestal and so many stones, and he started with some giant arches. So all you see here are stone arches bending up and down, sideways, in all three directions. And his own father killed his son, telling that, oh, you wanted to better build than me? No, you're not gonna do. He killed his own son so that he will not build something bigger than what he has built. Again, one more spicy story.
Yeah, there's no dearth of spicy stories and drama here in Bijapur, looks like, yeah.
Yeah. And then there are smaller places like Malik Maidan, Upal Burj, where you see it's like Bijapur was fortified, so where they keep this their armories and things like that. So you can take a tanga, and usually they'll show you one chart or card they have. They're like, "Madam, I'm gonna take you to all these 12 places. You just have to sit." And each place is smaller place, like five minutes or 10 minutes. Some places are just a facade, but it looks very interesting. So there are places like that, which is Malik Maidan and Appal Burj and things like that. But the best part of taking this Tanga ride, no, they take you through the residential area. Like you mentioned, the Maratha influence in Bijapur, there are many wadi or wada, they call the
Vadas, yeah.
wadas. So there are many historical houses, and I wanted to get inside one, but of course it's a private property.
Right.
And the shop owner who was right next to the property said, "Madam, this house was built for around 100 people. 3 people live there." So imagine living in such a house. So it had clay tile, smaller windows, wooden carvings, wooden pillars. It looked beautiful. So this tanga ride of 3 hours, no. So it is really blissful. Yeah, you'll see many places, and you'll see lots of beautiful houses. It's like you said, if you keep on restoring everything in Bijapur, I don't know how much money we need because there is so many things to be conserved, and most of these houses have stone walls and cast iron floral pattern grills and things. So it's like you go back in time when you go to Bijapur residential areas. So obviously now it's too hot by the time you would have reached all these
Right.
destinations using Tanga. So have a nice meal at one of the Khanavalis. Khanavali means where they sell jowar rotis,
Yeah.
lots of pulse, and a big chunk of butter on top of your jowar roti. So it's much needed, especially one of the famous place is called as Siddhilingeshwara Kanavali near Barakaman. So it's cheap. It's around 80 rupees. That's all. So you have a meal. Go to your AC room. I'm mentioning AC room because you must book an AC room when you're in
Yeah.
Bijapur.
Irrespective
So
of the time. Yeah.
yeah, so true. So chill till the evening in the room because the afternoons get pretty hot. So you may feel there is nothing in Bijapur, but there is a lot in Bijapur, and the weather should actually support you, right? Like you can't go out when it's 35
Yeah.
and the heat is very pricky. So now we have been talking about all Islamic monuments, but there is something which is related to Hinduism in Bijapur itself, and I'm not at all a fan of modern architecture. But this Shiva temple in Bijapur, it's the India's largest Shiva statue. It's located around 7 to 8 kilometers from the city. You take an auto rickshaw, go there. The place is well maintained. Again, it's a beautiful place to watch sunset. Literally, the Shiva sitting in the meditating pose during that time, it feels really good. And outside the Shiva temple, you'll all have this mirchi mandaki, bhaji, bondas, and all the local snack corners. So you can have all that and come back to your room, and your day one is done.
Yeah, definitely the Shiva statue that you're speaking of, right? I think they call it as the Shivagiri Park. That is magnificent. But I've heard, I don't know, conflicting reports. There's another one in Murdeshwar also that's huge, right? The Shiva statue that's built in Murdeshwar. Either way, it's one of the biggest in India, I believe, and definitely, I think, especially around evenings, if you go there, it should be a great one. And the other thing you mentioned, right, Kanavalis, I'd like to double click on that a little bit more also. This is like the popular cuisine, I would say, of North Karnataka, right? The Jowar belt, as we call it. And it's very popular for the Jowar rotis or Jodad roti, like we call them, along with a lot of pulses and purely vegetarian. I think primarily Lingayat food, right? Vegetarian, and comes with a variety of pulses and your brinjal curries and whatnot. It's really mouth-watering. I had a chance, again, back in the day, one of my friends from Chitradurga had taken us, and we had a chance to like eat authentic food in Chitradurga. But you'll find these across a lot of districts in northern part of Karnataka. So if you're there, make sure to visit one of the Khanavalis. But really something that you have to try out while in Bijapur. Would you agree, Sahana?
Yes, totally. Especially when you said brinjal curry, my mouth started watering. I'm like, oh, I want to eat an guy now with a lot of butter on my jowar roti.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is what, almost the end of day one. What was planned for day two?
So the next most beautiful monument or the place in Bijapur is Ibrahim Rauza. So again, it's a mosque with a mausoleum for an Adil Shahi king. So it's a vast complex which has a basement, and the basement is supported with arches, and it's set in a beautiful park. So it feels like somehow you get that movie Jodha Akbar feel when you walk in the pathway with green park on either side, and you can even hear Azimo Shan Shahenshah. I felt so. So you go there, then you see two buildings on sitting little bit away from each other. So here again it reminded me of Iran a lot because of the stalactites and the stucco works. So the roof is interesting, the carvings is interesting, the smaller kitkies or the grilled windows are interesting. So I don't know which part of Ibrahim Rauza is left undetailed. So, and there used to be a small I think it's called as house in Persian, where
Sure.
they with the water
Fountain.
sprout in the
Yeah.
middle. Yeah, fountain. That is not there now, but just the space is there. So that part is really good, and I would suggest, again, you need not get up every day at 6 a.m. I know you are on a holiday, but going there before the crowd hits the place is really good. I would suggest either go early in the morning or end your day with that.
Okay.
So once you are done with Ibrahim Rauza, it's little bit away from the city. So any auto rickshaw, if you ask, they'll take you there. There is no Ola or Uber in Bijapur. It's either Tanga or the auto rickshaw. So then you come back. I would suggest you have kadak roti for breakfast. So it's another version of jolad roti,
Yeah.
the jowar roti, what we were talking about earlier. So it's hard. It's
Yeah.
hard as papad, and it's usually sold by old ladies. They'll wrap it up in their pure cotton, white, clean cloth. They would have made those rotis at home. They'll give you pot of curd, thick curd, kadak roti, and they give you chili, green chili, to bite along with it. Yeah, it may not be for everyone. It's not for me also, but yeah. And they give onion, so it's kind of a light breakfast. And I always believe in giving it to the local economy. So
Sure.
it's nice. You can have a chat with them, and don't forget to observe their saris. Most of the people in Bijapur wears ilkal saris, especially the older generation. So it's another place near Bijapur, near Mudor, between Mudor and Bijapur. It's a place called Ilkal, which is famous for cotton weaving, cotton woven saris. It is exported to Maharashtra also. So it's characterized by solid colors with border and stripes in the pallu. So, and it's one of the softest fabric you can ever get. So the moment you see the ilkil sari, you'll know that these guys are from North Karnataka, especially from they are from either Bidar, Bijapur, or Gulbarga. And also, I forgot to mention, when you're walking on the road, don't forget to observe the dogs. I am a dog lover. I have three dogs at home in my native. The dogs I'm talking about here are special because they're called as Mudol Hound. Actually, though we give them the name, they are the stray dogs of Bijapur. So they have tall, thin leg, and they have a very, very slender body. And when the moment you look at them, you feel that they are malnutritioned or underfed or something like that. But trust me, they are one of the best hunter dogs of India.
Yeah.
So all the estate guys and all, they bring these dogs from Mudol to their estates to keep the deer and bisons away. So once all that is done, on the second day you can go to after visiting Ibrahim Rosa, I would say you go to the market. It's called as Shastri Market, Lal Bahadur Shastri Market. Honestly, I was expecting something like a bazaar vibe because I had seen so much connection with Bijapur to Turkey and Iran. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna enter one bazaar like how I did in Istanbul or Isfahan, but it's not. but the market is so nice. And as a vegetarian, I am a vegetarian, but I have never seen so many pulses at one shot or one go there. The market smells really good. I honestly, I don't know the name of many pulses what they sell here, and it's mostly wholesale market. But as a curious tourist, you go and ask them, they even give you, like, I ate many raw pulses there. And there are chili mandi, mensinkai mandi. The pungent smell hits you and you start sneezing, you know you're near a mensinkai mandi. So the piles of variety of chilies, and the market is very, very colorful. And I love to listen to people bargaining. Whether it's a man or woman, they say 100 rupees, you ask for 20 rupees, then they come to 40 rupees. So I think we spent almost 2.5 hours there, and we bought something called as shenga chutney, which you may be aware of. It's made out of groundnut, which you can use it as a paste or a dip for rotis, chapatis, and things. So you can shop and you can buy all these weird looking fryams and things, pure jaggery, chia seeds. So it's like one food veganza. Like I didn't know that I could eat so many things until I went to Bijapur market.
Okay, wonderful. Again, like I said, thank you so much for taking time out to literally take us back in time, right, and share not just the places to see and their beauty, but so nicely connecting all of them to the backstories and the history and the connections to it as well. And funnily enough, it's like going back in time, but even for me, it was like going back in time because Sahana and I share the same educational institution, I can say. We were just chatting before we started the recording. Sahana actually teaches architecture history at the same place where I did my undergrad. So that also kind of took me back in time, although it's been like 20 years now. But yeah, thank you so much for so beautifully taking us through this very, very underrated and underappreciated place in Karnataka and India, and shedding the much needed light, attention, and awareness about this place, and more so about its hidden, or not hidden, but lesser known histories, right? So thank you so much, Sahana, and it was a pleasure to have you on the Musafir Stories.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
That was yet another great episode on the Musafir Stories. Make sure to show us some love by sharing the podcast with your friends and family. We are on Instagram and Twitter at Musafir Stories. If you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM podcast app or the website. Follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram.